What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Check availability, get a free price quote, and you can have me, possibly, at your next event. Entertaining you, entertaining the people. The people need to be entertained. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag, What Makes You Famous. Let's learn some stuff right here on the What Makes You Smarter program.
Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Friday, June 19th, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, Supreme Court rules Trump officials violated law in ending DACA. The Supreme Court ruled on Thursday that the Trump administration cannot immediately carry out its plan to end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, which provides protection against deportation for about 649,000 so-called Dreamers who immigrated to the U.S. as children. Chief Justice John Roberts Jr. wrote in the majority opinion, joined by the court's 4 more liberal members, that President Trump's appeal of the program was, quote, arbitrary and capricious. Former President Barack Obama, who established the DACA in 2012, called Trump's 2017 decision to end the program, quote, cruel, end quote. Roberts confirmed Trump had to end the program if he provides a, quote, reasoned explanation, end quote. Trump tweeted that the decision and another recent defeat made it appear that the court, quote, doesn't like me, end quote. This is according to the New York Times and the Washington Post. Number 2, Facebook pulls Trump campaign ads over symbol used by Nazis. Facebook on Thursday removed ads from President Trump's campaign because they contained an upside-down red triangle that closely resembled a symbol Nazis used to identify political prisoners in World War II concentration camps. Quote, we removed these posts and ads for violating our policy against organized hate, end quote, a Facebook spokesperson said. Quote, our policy prohibits using a banned hate group symbol without the context that condemns or discusses the symbol, end quote. The ads appealed for donations and petition signatures to help fight anti-fascist activists. And the Trump campaign said the symbol is, quote, widely used by Antifa, end quote. It noted that there is a similar looking emoji. The Anti-Defamation League said the symbols in the ads was, quote, practically identical to that used by Nazi regime to classify political prisoners in concentration camp, end quote. This is according to CNN and the Washington Post. Number 3, Juneteenth, marking the end of slavery in spotlight amid racial injustice protests. Activists plan to mark Juneteenth, the holiday celebrating the end of slavery in the United States, with continuing protests against racial injustice on Friday. Support is rising for proposals in Congress to make Juneteenth a federal holiday after more than 2 weeks of demonstrations against police brutality following the killings of George Floyd, an unarmed black man, in Minneapolis police custody. Numerous major companies, including Twitter, Nike, and the NFL, have made June 19th a paid holiday for their employees for the first time. The celebration commemorates the day in 1865 when a Union general informed people still enslaved in Texas, despite the Emancipation Proclamation and the end of the Civil War, that they were free, according to the Washington Post and USA Today. Number 4, jobless claims fall but remain above 1 million for 13th week. About 1.5 million people filed initial applications for unemployment benefits last week, the Labor Department reported Thursday. The figure is economists' projections of 1.3 million new jobless claims, but marked the 11th consecutive week of declines since the job losses peaked in mid-March after widespread coronavirus lockdowns hit. Still, it was the 13th straight week with jobless filings exceeding 1 million. Before the coronavirus crisis, the weekly record was 695,000, set in a 1982 recession. Claims for pandemic unemployment assistance for self-employed workers ineligible for standard unemployment benefits added 760,000 to the total. Quote, "It's a sustained hemorrhaging of jobs unlike anything we've seen," end quote, said Heidi Sherolds, Director of Policy at the Economic Policy Institute, a progressive think tank. This is according to the New York Times. Number 5. California requires use of face masks to prevent COVID-19 infection. The California Department of Public Health on Thursday ordered everyone in the state to wear masks whenever they leave home to reduce the risk of spreading the coronavirus. State health officials listed nearly a dozen situations when cloth face coverings are specifically required, including when someone is working in an office or riding public transportation. The move came after California reported its largest number of new cases in a single day. 10 other states also require masks, despite public in some places. Governor Gavin Newsom, Democrat, said science has proven the face coverings work. Quote, "Simply put, we are seeing too many people with faces uncovered, putting at risk the real progress that we've made in fighting the disease," end quote, Newsom said. This is according to the San Francisco Chronicle. Number 6, State Department official resigns over Trump response on racial injustice. Mary Elizabeth Taylor, the Assistant Secretary of State for Legislative Affairs, submitted her resignation on Thursday to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, citing disagreement with President Trump's response to racial injustice. Taylor, 30, was the youngest person and the first black woman to hold the job. Quote, "Moments of upheaval can change you, shift the trajectory of your life, and mold your character," end quote, she wrote in her resignation letter, which was obtained by the Washington Post. Quote, "The president's comments and actions surrounding racial injustice and black Americans cut sharply against my core values and convictions," end quote. Prior to joining the State Department, she was an aide to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, and worked in the Trump White House as Deputy Director of Nominations. This is according to the Washington Post. Number 7, Klobuchar urges Biden to pick a woman of color as running mate. Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat, Minnesota, on Thursday out of contention to be presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's running mate, saying that the historic upwelling of opposition to racism required a woman of color as the party's vice presidential candidate. Quote, "This is a moment to put a woman of color on that ticket, and there are so many incredible qualified women," end quote. Klobuchar, who ran unsuccessfully for the Democratic presidential nomination, said in an interview on MSNBC, quote, "If you want to heal this nation right now, my party, yes, but our nation, this is sure a hell of a way to do it," end quote. Klobuchar said that she had discussed her views with Biden, whose campaign made no immediate comment. This is according to MSNBC and Reuters. Number 8. Biden widens lead over Trump in new Fox News poll. Former Vice President Joe Biden led President Trump by 12 percentage points in a Fox News poll released Thursday, widening his lead from 8 points in the same poll last month. In the new poll, 50% of respondents said they would vote for Biden compared to 38% for Trump. 63% of Biden supporters said a fear of a Trump win drove their choice, while 31% cited enthusiasm for Biden. The opposite was true for Trump backers, with 62% saying they were motivated by enthusiasm for Trump and 33% cited fear of a Biden win. Biden held a 79-point lead among black voters. Trump was up by 41 points among white evangelical Christians, a demographic he won by 64 points in 2016. This is according to Fox News. Number 9, Twitter retweeted by Trump manipulated media. Twitter on Thursday labeled a post retweeted by President Trump as, quote, manipulated media, end quote, that violated company policy. The video showed a doctored news clip with a fake misspelled CNN banner or chyron that read, quote, Terrified toddler runs from racist baby, end quote. The original video, which went viral in 2019, showed a black toddler and a white toddler running to each other and hugging. The video retweeted in Trump's feed showed only a part in which one of the children runs ahead of the other. The original clip is then shown, followed by the words, quote, "America is not the problem. Fake news is," end quote. CNN's communications team responded, quote, "CNN did cover this story exactly as it happened. We'll continue working with facts rather than tweeting fake videos that exploit innocent children. We invite you to do the same," end quote. This is according to Reuters. Number 10. Air Force investigates use of military aircraft to monitor protests. The Air Force announced Thursday that its Inspector General is investigating whether military RC-26 surveillance planes were used to improperly monitor anti-racism and anti-police brutality protests in Minneapolis and Washington this month. The news came days after a top Pentagon intelligence policy official told Congress that military intelligence agencies hadn't spied on participants in recent protests. Representative Adam Kinzinger, Republican, Illinois, is an RC-26 pilot with the Wisconsin Air National Guard, and he told the New York Times he flew 2 night missions over Minneapolis this month, providing real-time video to authorities. The plane's camera is strong enough to capture a person's general image, but it can't be used for facial recognition or reading license plates. This is according to the New York Times. That's 10 things you need to know today for Friday, June 19th, 2020. Thank you so much for listening, and happy Juneteenth. I hope you all are doing reasonably well. Drop me some comments. Let me know what you're up to in this time. This has been What Makes You Smarter. If you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, RadioWhat.com. DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here. Peace. I'm out of here. Peace.
If you like what you hear, I encourage you to follow What Makes You Smarter on social media. Find it on Facebook at What Makes You Smarter, Instagram at What Makes You Smarter, Twitter at SmarterWhat, and YouTube, username Keys Dan. Leave What Makes You Smarter podcast a review and subscribe. Listen to What Makes You Smarter podcast on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Podcast Addict. My personal favorite, learn with me on my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. And if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Call 501-470-6386 and leave a message to set up a time for What Makes You Famous. Support What Makes You Smarter podcast using the PayPal, paypal.me/KeysDan. Email info@radiowhat.com. What Makes You Smarter is a production of Keys Dan Enterprises Incorporated at keysdan.com. Thank you for listening.